You know, boys and ghouls, it's interesting. I've talked about more movies based off of this book than any other novel adaptation on this channel. I've talked about Bride of Reanimator, I've talked about May, hell, I've even talked briefly about Rocky Horror Picture Show. And yet, each new adaptation still manages to surprise me. Frankenhooker was a 1990 horror comedy, written and directed by Frank Henenlotter. Who apparently just improvised the basic story at a pitch meeting and then wrote the script afterwards. It took the basic premise of your average Frankenstein story and went, hey, I'm gonna write my own version.
With blackjack and hookers.
On second thought, happy on the hookers, light on the blackjacks. But could something like that ever really prove fruitful? That's what I'm here to find out. I am Celine, that dead hooker you left to rot in the trunk of your car. And we're here to talk about Frankenhooker. But before we get started, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and click that little bell thingy to get notified. I post regular movie reviews and gameplays, all with a horror theme to them, so trust me when I say that you won't want to miss what's coming. Don't believe me? Stick around to the end of the episode to find out what movie I'll be discussing next time. Frankenhooker is just sort of one of those movies with a title so striking that you can't help but watch it. Like Frankenhooker, wow, how cheesy and ridiculous is this gonna be? Plus, the writer-director is best known for the Basket Case franchise.
Open it, if you dare.
And the titular Frankenhooker is played by former Penthouse pet Patty Mullen. Glory, glory, hallelujah! This is gonna be bad. So the movie opens up on Jeffrey, a med school dropout who likes to experiment with just a couple of surgical endeavors. Nothing huge, you know, just stapling his fiance's stomach.
And you let him operate on you? Well, of course. I mean, we're going to be married.
Holy fuck, that's an invasive surgery. Is that gonna come back into the story at some point? Like she deals with some sort of health issues as a result of... Wait. She dies immediately by being run over by a lawnmower? Okay. Fast forward a little bit and Jeffrey is still holding on to what he could salvage of his fiance's remains. Her head and like a hand, I don't know. Of course he wants to bring her back to life, but in order to do that, he needs to find her a new body. He thinks really hard about where he can find one because headless female bodies are really hard to come by. And to encourage his thinking process, he proceeds to drill a hole into his skull. They don't explain why he thought that would help, but okay. Eventually, he comes to the sad conclusion that many real-life serial killers come to. That prostitutes are basically unprotected under the law, so he can have his pick 'em.
I'm looking for a lot of good porn.
Honey. He heads downtown and asks a local pimp if he can hire 6 girls for the evening. Once he has them all collected in a hotel room, he then proceeds to judge their bodies, determining which has the best chest, which has the best legs, etc., etc. When his time is up, he proceeds to pull a bag full of crack out in front of the girls. And because prostitutes love crack, I guess, they proceed to do as much as possible and then explode. Like, literally. The crack makes them all explode. So that scene happened. Jeffrey takes the body parts back to his garage and proceeds to build his Frankenstein monster, with his fiance's head as the finishing piece. He hooks her up to a thingy, has the electricity go vroom through the cables and stuff. But oh no, electricity got into the freezer full of lady parts, and that means something. Anyway, Frankenhooker gets revealed at that moment, and I have to admit her design is pretty cool. She looks like one of those Monster High dolls, or like a high glam Barbie version of Frankenstein. Like she even has these adorable little platform shoes that call back to Boris Karloff. So as it turns out, Frankenhooker is a little confused because she's a combination of like 7 different women all battling for supremacy. And I kinda like that idea. Every other Frankenstein adaptation has given an entirely new personality to the monster, separate from anyone they might have been in life. But if the monster is literally made out of multiple people, then why not explore what might happen if you put multiple consciousnesses in one mind? There's only one problem with this. The way the movie chooses to communicate this is by having Frankenhooker communicate exclusively in quotes that the prostitute said at the beginning of the movie.
Want a date? Going out? Looking for some action?
Hey, going out? Want a date? Some action?
Okay, girls, listen up. This here's Jersey Boy.
Hey, girls, listen up. This here's Jersey Boy.
Are you gonna take my temperature, Doc? I bet you got a big thermometer.
Want to take my temperature, Doc? I bet you got a big thermometer.
Points gained for introducing a potentially interesting plot point. Points taken away for exploring it in the least engaging way possible. Like, wouldn't it have been something to get something actually new? Like an internal struggle or existential angst or something. But nope, recycled quotes, that's all we got. So Frankenhooker escapes and immediately starts searching the streets for new clients, because that's all prostitutes do, is work. None of these women had any family they may want to check in on. But the problem is, every time that Frankenhooker has sex with someone, they explode. Oh wait, that's more of a side problem that never comes back again, sorry. Frankenhooker makes her way to a bar where the girls as pimp realizes that something is off about her. And push comes to shove, he winds up punching Frankenhooker's head off. Fortunately, Jeffrey catches up to her at that moment, and he's able to take her home and put her head back on. This time, his fiancé's consciousness is the dominant one, giving Jeffrey the opportunity to explain to her what he's done. He lets slip that his formula only works on female bodies, and just at that moment, the pimp shows up and cuts Jeffrey's head off. Just when it seems as though all is lost, the freezer gets knocked over, revealing that the remaining prostitute body parts have merged into one horrific monstrosity that proceed to pull the pimp back into the freezer. Fast forward a little bit, we see Jeffrey waking back up. As it turns out, Frankenhooker went through Jeffrey's notes and learned how to reanimate a corpse. But because the formula only works on women's bodies, she was forced to give him a female body. Dun dun dun. And now he's doomed to live a life of body dysmorphia, hopefully being sexually objectified for his new sexy body parts. Okay, so, final thoughts. There is obviously a lot of cringe when it comes to Frankenhooker. I mean, not to get political or anything, but there is something kind of problematic about treating the murder of sex workers as a joke in a world where they actually are missing and murdered at alarming rates. Hey, Celine, keep it light. But it's important to spread awareness. Yes, you made your point, but this is a short video and you don't want everyone feeling all depressed through it, so wrap the politics up quick, dollface. Well, if we wanted to talk about the non-political ways that Frankenhooker is kinda cringy, we could talk about the fact that it's a clear ripoff of Bride of Reanimator. Both movies are about doctors who lose their fiancés and are left with only a single body part, forcing them to gather up the best parts of a bunch of different women to build the ideal body for their dead ex to live in. But at the same time, there's also this totally unnecessary subplot about monsters built out of miscellaneous body parts that didn't really come into play until the last act, when all of these body parts just rise up and carry our ineffective villain away. This movie is basically what would happen if you combined the Herbert West role with the Dan Kane role in Bride of Reanimator. The two movies even take the same approach towards building the monster, insistent that the perfect partner is only achievable by taking the best parts of multiple people. Hell, that message is even stronger here than in Bride of Reanimator. In Bride of Reanimator, it's basically just one scene that amounts to Herbert West proving that their bride is better than any living woman by listing the achievements of the women that make her up.
The feet of a young ballet dancer. These legs walk the streets. the lawyer's hand.
But otherwise, we can assume that Meg is Dan's perfect woman. Their relationship seemed pretty perfect when she was alive anyway. But between Jeffrey and Elizabeth, we have this really cringy subplot in the beginning of the movie, where Elizabeth's weight has become a problem in their relationship.
Jeffrey's too strange and I'm too fat.
Which I really don't know what she's so upset about. Really, all she needs to do is take that pillow out of her pants. So we see that Elizabeth is not Jeffrey's perfect partner when she's alive. The only way that she can become perfect is by taking the best parts of not one, but 6 separate women, arranged exactly to her boyfriend's liking. And hell, there's even one scene where he pulls the shoe off his perfect leg and discovers that she has bunions, something that repulses him.
Oh my God. Bunions!
So even the perfect body parts aren't good enough for Jeffrey. The idea of building the perfect partner out of multiple people does not inherently have to be dehumanizing. Look at May, where our mad scientist is trying to build a partner that can meet all her needs in a way that no living person can. But Frankenhooker presents it in a way that is so dehumanizing. It's all about fixing your girlfriend's imperfect body so that you can have the hottest big titty goth girlfriend around. And now I can hear all of you in the comments saying, of course it's dehumanizing. It's called Frankenhooker. It's exploitation. That's the point. And you'd be right, of course. I'm not penalizing the movie for these things. I'm just making sure that we're aware of them. And all in all, how does Frankenhooker hold up as a horror comedy? So not all the jokes land, obviously. That joke about Jeffrey becoming the bride of Frankenhooker wasn't well handled, and it's the last joke of the movie, so that's kind of a problem. And some of their choices were just weird and confusing, like Jeffrey taking a drill to his skull and he wants to think. It's almost a little bit like they wanted to replicate Herbert West injecting himself with reagents in order to keep his energy up, but this is a one-man conspiracy theory followed exclusively by me. All in all, this movie is just weird enough to feel like a fever dream. Nothing feels real, and the acting lends to that nicely. Not that they're bad actors, it's just, you know.
Nobody has a gun to their head. If they don't want to do it, they can just say no.
I'm not sure they're trying to be good. Everybody's energy is high, so you're kept engaged. And every time something weird happens, it keeps you wanting to know what will happen next. This is definitely an example that plays into the pleasure principle. You got your hot girls, you got your bright colors, you got your weird jokes. It's all trash and you know it, but you love it because it's so ridiculous. Because it is exploitation, it isn't for everyone and probably will offend most people for some reason. But it is an enjoyable sit nonetheless, even if the acting is bad, and the special effects are bad, and the politics are problematic. And even if there are better versions of this story made, like, say, I don't know, every version I've mentioned in this review. Still, this movie did have one thing that those movies didn't. A ridiculous title. And purple wigs. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click that little bell thingy to get notified. Because next time, we're talking about Carrie. Which Carrie? Just wait and see. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and while you're down there, why don't you leave me a comment? Let me know what your favorite Frankenstein adaptation is. Thank you so much for watching, my pets, and I will see you next time. Love you.